My Hero Academia first season is set in a world where currently, most of the human population has gained the ability to develop superpowers called quirks, which appear in children within the age of 4. It is estimated that around 80% of the world's population has a quirk. There are endless quirks, and it is only possible to find 2 people with the same power if they are closely related. Some quirk-enhanced individuals earn the title of heroes, who cooperates with the authorities in rescue operations and catches criminals who abuse their power, commonly known as villains. Besides, heroes who excel in their duties gain celebrity status and are recognized as pro-heroes. However, this story will focus on a young man named Izuku Midoriya, who dreams of becoming a hero despite being bullied for lacking a quirk. Midoriya is usually constantly get bullied by his childhood friend, a young man named Katsuki Bakugo. Bakugo's quirk allows him to produce nitroglycerin-like sweat from his hands and ignite it on command, allowing him to create strong explosions. The more Bakugo sweats, the stronger his outbursts become. Bakugo, who dreams of becoming a pro-hero, enrolls in UA High School, an academy that boasts the best heroics education in Japan. Bakugo and Midoriya apparently want to apply to UA High School. However, Midoriya suddenly became the object of ridicule from his classmates because a quirkless like Midoriya couldn't be accepted at this prestigious school. Even so, Midoriya remains determined to become a hero because the young man greatly admires All Might, the greatest hero in the world, and he is the symbol of peace. One day, while returning home from school, Midoriya was attacked by a mud monster, making it difficult for the young man to breathe. Not long after, All Might appeared and trounced the monster. All Might said goodbye to Midoriya and was about to fly from there. But Midoriya suddenly grabbed All Might's leg and made the man forced to land on the roof of a building. Midoriya then asks if a quirkless like himself can become a hero. However, suddenly, Midoriya was shocked by the changes that occurred in All Might's body. All Might, who used to have an athletic and muscular body, suddenly turned skinny. All Might told Midoriya that he was severely injured in a fight with a formidable foe 5 years ago. Because his internal organs were fatally damaged after the battle, All Might can now only use his power for 3 hours daily. Because of that, All Might told Midoriya that it would be hard for him to become a hero because heroes must always risk their lives to protect people with their powers. Before leaving, All Might suggests that Midoriya just becomes a cop because police work isn't too dangerous, and Midoriya can still protect people from criminals. In another place, the mud monster, previously defeated by All Might, was able to rise again and take Bakugo hostage. Knowing that Bakugo is being held hostage by a mud monster, Midoriya is desperate to attack the monster to save Bakugo, even though Midoriya has no power. On the other hand, seeing Midoriya pushing himself to save someone, despite being a quirkless, All Might finally muster all his strength to defeat the mud monsters and save Bakugo. After that, All Might returns to Midoriya and tells the young man that a quirkless like him can become a hero. All Might then decides to pass all his powers on to Midoriya because he thinks Midoriya is the right person. All Might's power is called One for All, which allows him to significantly enhance his physical abilities to a superhuman level. This comes in unbelievable strength, speed, agility, and durability levels. Hearing this, Midoriya became very happy and excited. However, Midoriya must have a tough physique before All Might bequeathed that tremendous power to Midoriya. Since then, All Might has continued physically training Midoriya by cleaning a beach full of junk. Long story short, 10 months later, Midoriya finally managed to clean the beach of junk. Midoriya also becomes stronger and tougher, so he can withstand the incredible power of All Might. Midoriya must swallow All Might's hair before getting the power of One for All from him. After that, Midoriya rushed to UA High School to register as a student at the school. However, the young man ignored the road because he was in a hurry, making him almost fall. Luckily, he is saved by a girl named Ochako Uraraka, who has the quirk power to make any object weightless by touching them with the pads on her fingertips. Following the written test, all examinees arrive at UA High School for the practical. Inside the auditorium, one of the male teachers explains the exam rules. The rules are the students must score points by destroying villain bots with various point values. The more points one examinee earns, the higher their chance of getting accepted into UA High School. Candidates are not allowed to fight other candidates. If they do that, they will be disqualified. Students from the same middle school are placed in different testing areas to avoid potential cooperation. When the exam finally starts, the examinees rush into the battle arena to destroy as many robots as possible, leaving the confused Midoriya behind, who quickly also runs into the battlefield when he realizes this. Midoriya is nervous because All Might has transferred the One for All power to him only a few hours before without noticing any apparent change. And as for how to use the power, Midoriya has yet to have time to practice with his new quirk, and All Might only give him a very vague explanation. His thoughts are interrupted when an enemy robot worth 1 point appears in front of him. The robotic villain advances toward him with hostile intentions, but Midoriya is so scared that he can't move. Before the robot can attack him, Midoriya is saved by a young man named Yuga Oyama, who uses his naval laser to destroy the robot. Shortly afterward, Midoriya frantically searches for just 1 point. Still, almost all of the robots have already been destroyed, with several students racking up between 20 and 45 points within the first few minutes. During the chaos, a massive villain bot, Arena Traps, suddenly appears and attacks the examinees. Midoriya sees Ochako trapped under the rubble and unable to move. When all the participants ran for safety and avoided the Arena Traps, Midoriya rushed forward without a second thought to save Ochako. By using a little one for all power, Midoriya can easily take down the massive robot. But because Midoriya hasn't been able to master his new power, he can't even move his hands and feet, so Ochako then helps him using her zero-gravity quirk. After being relieved knowing that Ochako is fine, Midoriya starts crawling to try to get at least 1 point. But then the teacher declares that the practical test is over, much to Midoriya's displeasure, as he blacks out. After the practical exams, one of the heroes, the recovery girl, checks the participant's condition and uses her quirk to heal Midoriya. Long after, the examinees receive their test results a week after the practical test. All Might delivers Izuku his results via a holographic message and announces that he will teach at UA High School in the coming year. All Might also show a video recording of Ochako pleading with the judges to give a few points to Midoriya because the young man saved her life. But Ochako's request was rejected by the judges. However, All Might reveals that, besides scoring villain points, the judges monitoring the exam reward rescue points for heroic acts. This standard is not shared with the students, so they are motivated toward genuine selflessness. The judges praised Midoriya's action when he was running out of time and had no points, but despite these concerns, Midoriya rushed in to save Ochako's life. While Midoriya broke his legs and right arm, he displayed heroic characteristics that impressed them enough to grant him 60 rescue points. Because of that, Midoriya successfully passed the entrance exam and was accepted as a student at UA High School. Knowing that a quirkless like Midoriya was successfully accepted into the school, Bakugo also assumed that Midoriya had cheated. However, Midoriya insists that he successfully passed the entrance exam alone. Long story short, Midoriya officially attends UA High School and is placed in Class 1A, where he is in the same class as Ochako and Bakugo. Their homeroom teacher is Shoyuta Aizawa, whose quirk is the ability to temporarily erase other people's powers simply by looking at them. However, this only works as long as Aizawa's eyes are open and at the opponents. Aizawa is known as a rigorous teacher at the school. Hearing that, the students tried putting all their might into getting high points so they wouldn't be expelled. However, Midoriya can't use the one for all power because he pushes himself too much. Midoriya will hurt his hand like he did during the entrance exam a while ago, while he still has to take some tests from Aizawa. Midoriya, who had the lowest points among his friends, seemed hesitant when he was about to take the 5th test, which was the ball-throwing test. Midoriya also decided to use his power in this test because if not, he would most likely be expelled from school. But on the other hand, Aizawa erased Midoriya's powers to protect the young man from the severe injuries Midoriya might inflict if he forced himself to use his powers. Upon learning that, Midoriya finally focused his strength on just one finger, so he wouldn't be seriously injured but still be able to throw the ball and get high points. Aizawa seemed surprised that Midoriya had such thoughts, and could finally take the following test because only one finger was injured. On the other hand, Bakugo, who saw the great power possessed by Midoriya, looked very surprised because he didn't expect Midoriya had such tremendous power. An annoyed Bakugo then tries to attack Midoriya. But the young man was immediately stopped by Aizawa. After the students had taken all the tests, Aizawa then announced the results of the points achieved by all of them, where Midoriya got the lowest points. Midoriya immediately felt hopeless because he thought he would be expelled from school. But then, Aizawa told his students they would not be expelled. Aizawa threatened to expel the students if they got low points to make his students put their maximum effort into their training. Hearing this, Midoriya was relieved that he was not expelled from school. When he was about to leave, Aizawa met All Might, who asked about Aizawa's decision not to expel anyone from the first-year students this year. In fact, Aizawa was quick to expel students who didn't have the potential to become heroes. But this time, Aizawa saw the great potential of the first-year students, especially Midoriya. After that, Midoriya met the recovery girl in the school's medical room to heal his injury. The recovery girl can heal Midoriya's wounds very quickly. However, the side effect is that Midoriya becomes tired and sleepy, as his energy is immediately used to heal the injury. The recovery girl then warns Midoriya to always be careful not to get injured too often because if Midoriya continues to suffer very severe injuries, then Midoriya will run out of stamina and eventually die. The next day, All Might teaches foundational hero studies in Midoriya's class, where in this lesson, All Might asks his students to put on their hero costumes and do combat training. The students will be divided into 2 teams and play the roles of heroes and villains. Midoriya and Ochako, who became the heroes team, had to fight the villains team consisting of Bakugo and one of the students named Ida Tenya, who has the form of engine-like tubes on his calves, giving him incredible speed and kicking strength as his quirk. Midoriya was initially afraid because he had to deal with Bakugo, who often bullied him in middle school. However, Midoriya decided to win the fight and defeat Bakugo. In short, Midoriya and Ochako then infiltrate a building where a team of villains is hiding a nuclear bomb. They will be considered victorious if they succeed in deactivating the atomic bomb. However, their arrival was immediately caught by Bakugo, who immediately attacked the 2 of them. Midoriya was involved in a fierce battle with Bakugo, and unexpectedly, Midoriya could match Bakugo's physical strength. Midoriya is reluctant to use the power of One for All because he is still unable to control that power and is more worried about the safety of Bakugo, who might be killed if Midoriya uses the power of One for All. Midoriya then asks Ochako to look for Tenya's whereabouts while he tries his best to restrain Bakugo. Not long after, Ochako finally managed to find the whereabouts of Tenya and the nuclear bomb. Tenya turned out to have predicted Ochako's appearance and cleaned the place so that Ochako couldn't use her zero-gravity quirk to attack him. On the other hand, Midoriya, who was in a desperate situation because of Bakugo's fatal attack, was finally forced to use the One for All power to ward off Bakugo's attack. Due to using the incredible power he had, Midoriya almost destroyed the building. However, it actually brings another advantage for Ochako, who immediately acts fast, using the scattered building debris to attack Tenya and seize the nuclear bomb so that the heroes team is declared the winner. After that, Midoriya was rushed to the school's medical room to get medicine, the recovery girl. He got treated for a moderately severe injury because of using the One for All power. Meanwhile, the students of Class 1A are taken aback by the power of a student named Shoto Todoroki, who has a powerful quirk called Half Cold Half Hot, which grants him incredible dual-element capabilities. Using the right side of his body, Todoroki can drastically lower temperatures, freeze anything he touches, and generate ice that he can freely mold into numerous constructs, including ice waves covering large areas and ice barriers. From the left side of his body, Todoroki can eloquently increase thermokinetics and release scorching hot flames by consuming streams or protective waves. Like Midoriya, Todoroki and his team also won the fight, even with great ease. On the other hand, the recovery girl is seen talking to All Might about the One for All power he passed on to Midoriya. Not everyone knows that the One for All power can be passed on to someone, and All Might also ask Midoriya to keep it a secret from anyone, even his mother, because it would be hazardous if the villains found out. Not long after, Midoriya finally regained his senses and returned to his class, where he was later informed that Bakugo had returned. Midoriya then rushed after Bakugo and revealed to the young man that he got great power from someone. Midoriya couldn't disclose the identity of the person who had given him this power because he had promised to keep it a secret. Upon hearing that, Bakugo felt annoyed that Midoriya had become stronger than him. Even in their class, Todoroki has a powerful quirk, so now Bakugo's power is no longer special. However, Bakugo did not just give up and was determined to continue training himself so his strength could increase and finally be able to match All Might. Even Bakugo was determined to surpass All Might's strength. The next day, the students were surprised by the reporters who gathered in front of the school gate, where they were so curious about All Might, who became the new teacher at UA High School. However, the school's security system instantly activated the iron shield surrounding the entire school wall to prevent unwanted attacks from villains or certain parties that would disrupt order in the school. Meanwhile, in Class 1A, Aizawa asked his students to determine the class president by voting. After voting, Midoriya turned out to be the class president, and his representative was a student named Momo Yayorozu. However, due to an incident involving journalists, Midoriya finally realizes that Tenya is more worthy of being the class president than he is, so Midoriya resigns and nominates Tenya as the class president in front of all his classmates. The students didn't seem to mind Midoriya's decision, and Tenya finally officially became the president of Class 1A. A few days later, Class 1A students will attend training for disaster rescue at a special facility called the Unforeseen Simulation Joint. Arriving there, the students got acquainted with a pro-hero nicknamed 13, who specializes in search and rescue. 13's quirk is called Black Hole, a power that lets her replicate a black hole suction effect from her fingertips. The suction is potent, and not even light can escape it, and anything sucked into the black hole will be disintegrated into dust. On the other hand, All Might has apparently been scheduled to oversee the training of the students of Class 1A. However, All Might had reached the time limit for using his powers. It's because the man had used all his strength to save people on his way there. For this reason, the students in grades 1A were only accompanied by their homeroom teachers, Aizawa and 13, who explained to the students about the USJ facility consisting of a dome-shaped building composed of 8 main sections, with 6 of them emulating a particular disaster scenario. 13 emphasized that students must train physically and increase their strength to save others as the hero's primary task. However, when they were about to start training, a group of criminals named the League of Villains came using Rap Gate. The League of Villains invade in search of All Might and are confused when they don't see him among the faculty protecting Class 1A. Aizawa asks 13 to protect the students and heads for the exit while he storms the USJ's Central Plaza and attacks the villains, quickly dispatching many lower-level thugs. But one of the villains, a man named Kurojiri, manages to slip and confront 13 and the students before they retreat. Kurojiri evades their explosive assault and then uses his quirk to warp the class and scatter them across the various regions of the USJ facility. The League of Villains has planned to separate the students by bending them to the different zones of the facility where villains wait to ambush them. Midoriya is sent to the shipwreck zone with Tsuyu Azuri and Minoru Mineta. Midoriya then devises a plan with Azuri and Minoru to defeat the criminals. Azuri is capable of using the frog-based abilities granted by her quirk. At the same time, Minoru handles his quirk perfectly, primarily using his spheres as projectiles, binding opponents and their weapons to objects or even themselves. Thanks to the solid cooperation of the 3 of them, Midoriya, Azuri, and Minoru finally manage to defeat the criminals and get out of the shipwreck zone. Meanwhile, Todoroki can easily defeat the bad guys with his quirk in the erosion zone. The vice-class president, Momo, is trapped in the mountain zone with a boy named Denki Kaminari and a girl named Kyukujiro. Knowing that Kaminari had a hard time using his quirk because it could harm Kyuka and herself, Momo then used her powers to make an insulating carpet to protect them from the electric shocks that came from Kaminari's quirk. The 3 finally defeated the criminals, although Kaminari suffered a mild concussion from using too much electrical energy. At the zone of the ruins, Bakugo appears to be fighting criminals with the help of a student named Eijiro Kirishima, whose quirk can turn himself into a human shield for allies or defenseless civilians. With a pretty great fighting ability, which is owned by both, they were finally able to defeat the criminals there. Meanwhile, Aizawa now has to face off against the League of Villains leader, Tamura Shigaraki, whose quirk allows him to disintegrate whatever he touches with all 5 fingers. It will take effect whether the target is organic or not. With his strength, Shigaraki managed to break Aizawa's attack and immobilize one of his arms. After that, one of his henchmen, Nomu, beat Aizawa badly and seriously injured him. On the other hand, 13 told Tenya to hurry away from there and asked the teachers at the school for help while she blocked Kurojiri's attack with her black hole power. However, Kurojiri apparently launched a fatal attack on 13 and caused her to be seriously injured. Seeing this, Tenya rushed out of the USJ facility to call for reinforcements to save his friends. Knowing that Tenya had managed to escape to call for support, Shigaraki then planned to withdraw because they would not be able to win against the heroes. Shigaraki then tried to attack Azuri with his quirk, but Aizawa quickly erased Shigaraki's power and managed to save Azuri in time. Seeing Shigaraki, who was about to kill his friend, Midoriya did not stay silent and immediately used the power of One for All to launch an attack on Shigaraki. However, one of Shigaraki's henchmen, Nomu, directly protects the man from Midoriya's attack. Midoriya was surprised when he discovered that his full power attack didn't work on Nomu. Nomu is actually powerful monsters created from human corpses whose bodies were drastically altered to make them stronger and allow them to hold multiple quirks. Turned out, Nomu that Midoriya is currently facing has a shock absorption quirk. He is capable of absorbing the impact of attacks launched by his enemies. When Nomu was about to counterattack Midoriya, All Might suddenly appear with his full power and looked very angry because Shigaraki and his henchmen had hurt his favorite students. After rescuing Aizawa and the other students, All Might immediately fight against Shigaraki and Nomu. However, All Might's attack doesn't work on Nomu, and with Kurojiri's help, Nomu manages to seriously injure All Might. Seeing the teacher in trouble, Midoriya did not stay silent and rushed to help All Might, as did Bakugo and Todoroki. Thanks to the help of the 3 of them, All Might finally managed to break free from Nomu and Kurojiri's grip, even though Nomu also suffered severe injuries from the attack from Todoroki's quirk. But unexpectedly, Nomu turned out to have the ability to regenerate his own body, so their resistance was in vain. All Might decides to put all his strength into dealing with Nomu, even though he knows that Nomu will absorb all the impact of his attacks. All Might is quite sure that Nomu has a specific limit, so he doesn't just give up. After a fairly fierce battle, All Might finally managed to defeat Nomu and throws Nomu's body as far as possible. However, the battle did not stop there because there were still Shigaraki and Kurojiri, who immediately launched an attack on All Might. On the other hand, Midoriya, who realizes that All Might has reached the time limit for using his power, then tries to protect All Might by jumping in front of their enemy. At the same time, Tenya comes there with reinforcements, namely the heroes, who quickly save Midoriya from Shigaraki's fatal attack. The heroes are also able to trounce other villains. Realizing they had been defeated, Shigaraki and Kurojiri decided to escape. After that, they treated everyone injured in the battle against the League of Villains. Because Aizawa and 13 suffered severe injuries from the fatal attack, they both ended up being hospitalized, while Midoriya and All Might are only undergoing treatment in the school's infirmary. All Might then tell Midoriya that his current limit on using his powers has been drastically reduced, with All Might now only able to use his powers for 1 hour per day. This is because All Might has bequeathed 1 for all power to Midoriya. If All Might has lost all his powers, Midoriya will replace himself as a symbol of peace and eventually takes his place as the world's greatest hero. The moral that we can learn from this anime is, actually, the heroes and the villains are ordinary people, but what makes them different is their life choices, whereas the heroes choose to protect others. In contrast, the villains are more concerned with their selfishness and harming others. All of us start from zero, but we can make the right decision to become a hero.